This man took the life of 70 innocent people whilst they were in a cinema watching their favourite new film release. This true crime story will make you never want to go to the cinema ever again. So make sure you watch to the very end because this one is crazy. And as always, in every case, there is always a mystery. So make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any more true crime stories. This man is James Holmes, and he was raised and born in California. His mum was a nurse and his dad was actually a scientist. As James was a young kid, he was described to always have very severe night terrors. He'd always have bad nightmares of doing really bad things. And in fact, he had so many bad nightmares that he actually tried allegedly taking his own life when he was just 11 years old. He had really deep, dark dreams that almost felt really real to him, and they must have scarred him so badly that he tried to take his own life supposedly at 11 years old. Not only did James have really bad nightmares whilst he was a child, he was obsessed with guns and weapons. He would always be looking at them, always trying to get his hands on them, and he was always dreaming about becoming a mass murderer. Yes, he dreamt of being one. He wanted to be one. That was his dreams. His ambitions was to become a mass murderer. That's why he's obsessed with guns. His nightmares was always to do with guns and weapons and murdering people. That was his obsession. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he always dreamed of doing. Between May and July in 2012, he managed to get a hold of 4 weapons, guns to be precise. And some of these guns were extremely dangerous. They were very rapid fire guns, but he managed to get them legally. He got them through the proper checks. He had all of his background checks done. He had every check with the weapon. It was all made sure it was above board, and he legally got these guns where he lived. So there was no problems with that. There was no suspicions or anything like that. He was allowed the guns, so he had all the guns, which is probably not a good idea to somebody who's been dreaming of being a mass murderer. Of course, the gun shop where he got them from never knew this, but he managed to get his hands a hold of the guns that he's always dreamt of having. Not only did James buy loads of guns, he managed to get a hold of loads of spike strips. Now, if you guys don't know what that is basically the things you throw down, the police throw down to pop tires. So if somebody's chasing after you, you can throw them down and it'll blow out all their tires. He managed to get his hands on those too. Why? Maybe he was thinking of doing some sort of police chase, or someone was going to follow him. Regardless, he had all of his weapons, all of his guns, and he had his spike strips ready for something he was about to do next, which is just catastrophic. On July 19th, 2012, just hours before tragedy was about to strike, he actually mailed his psychiatrist his own notebook. Inside of James's notebook, it was revealed that there was a whole plan of what he was going to do. The whole crime was described bit by bit, how he was going to commit it, where he was going to do it. Everything about his crime was wrote down in his notebook, and he actually sent the notebook, but it was later revealed that it was never delivered. So this could have potentially been prevented, but no one ever got it. A few hours later, after he sent this notebook, he went to the cinema in Aurora, which was the cinema he was going to plan to attack. Now, just before James was about to go into the cinema, he actually called a crisis line just before he was going to go into the cinema and commit this mass murder. He actually got through to the crisis line, but the phone call only lasted 9 seconds and then it got disconnected. That 9 seconds could have prevented what was about to happen next, which took the life of 70 innocent civilians inside of that cinema. Now, he was going to attack people watching The Dark Knight Rises at the midnight viewing. This was the film he wanted everybody watching to basically suffer. James walks into the cinema, into screen 9, and opens the doors and looks round at everybody sitting down watching this film. He goes in there to assess the situation, to see if this place was full. Is there enough people in here for him to basically murder? He assessed the situation, he looked at everybody around. He then left the screen a few minutes later and went back to his car to allegedly then go and get his guns and his canisters, his gas canisters, and everything he needed to then go and make the attack, which then leads to the actual attack, which is just disturbing. At around 12:38 p.m. at midnight, he re-enters screen 9 with all of his weapons and he sets off 2 gas canisters. These 2 gas canisters takes the lives of 2 innocent humans. He then started firing with his gun to everybody in the audience, killing 10 people instantly and another 2 people who were severely injured. Another 70 people in the audience were also injured as well from gunshot wounds, and he basically just opened fire on everybody who was sat down watching this new film. He even trapped the people who were trying to leave, mainly firing at people who were trying to leave the cinema. So the more people who were trying to leave, the more he would shoot at them. Now at first, a lot of the people who did survive this case basically said that when they heard the gunshots, they didn't realise there was actually somebody in the cinema shooting. They thought it was part of the film, because James was very clever and he decided to choose the exact part of the film where there was gunshots going off, so people wouldn't be so suspicious. So a lot of people who did survive this case said that they never knew someone was firing until they actually saw it happen. They just thought it was part of the movie, and they were just still there watching it whilst people were being shot at below them. Little to find out seconds later that they were actually also under attack and their life was in danger. The cinema was a completely packed out cinema. Every single seat was taken, so James made sure of that before he went in. That's why he went in the first time. He wanted to make sure this place was full so he could really commit his nightmare dream, which was to become a mass murderer. So he basically just shot at everybody in his path. Everybody he could see, he shot at, including everybody trying to leave. Everyone sat down, and it was really not good hope for anybody. Now, the police were called immediately, and the police responded very, very fast. In fact, not long after the first 911 call, the police turned up at the cinema and actually saw James Holmes in the car park of the cinema. Now, when they got to him, he actually was very calm. He was almost like nothing had happened. James obviously left the cinema and was in the car park with the police officers, and when they tried speaking to him, James wanted to tell them something very important. And he actually told the police officers that he boogie trapped his own apartment, because they knew that if he didn't escape, the police would go looking for him. And he wanted to try and take the lives of more people, police officers, family members, whatever. He wanted to boogie trap his own apartment, so if someone tried entering it, they would effectively get blown up, or some sort of trap. Nobody believed this at first, but it was later investigated by the police when entering. In fact, James did boogie trap his own apartment. So people who would come in, he would also get the last sort of laugh, like the Joker he was trying to be. This was the sad story of James Holmes, and for anybody wondering, he did in fact get charged for this, for the mass murdering of the cinema shooting, and he got 12 consecutive life sentences in jail. So this guy will never breathe air from the outside again. He's got 12 life sentences, which so he should, and he just wanted to play the role of the Joker. He wanted to be the Joker. He planned this all out. He knew what he was going to do. He had it all in that notebook. He knew from the very second he was getting those night terrors what he was going to do. He planned it in detail in his notebook, and he knew on that date he was going to take a mass shooting to everybody watching the brand new Dark Knight released film. This is a very, very sad story. My heart goes out to all the victims, anybody affected by this story. I really am sorry for everything that's happened to anybody who knows anyone who was part of this story, or anyone was in the cinema. My heart goes out to all the family and victims, and this was a very, very sad case, and my heart goes out to everybody. And as always, in every case, there's always a mystery, so make sure you subscribe right now if you want to see more true crime stories.